If there's anything that people in Chicago take seriously, it's sausage. Polish sausage, Italian sausage, sausage and beef combos, hot dogs without ketchup. So when the Sausage King of Chicago was accused of murdering his wife in his sausage-making plant, Chicago was interested. This is the story of the sausage vat killing. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people. It's your best friend Kenny here, and today we have another spooky, disturbing story, a spooky, disturbing Chicago story about Adolph Luetgert and the sausage vat killings. Before we get to the story, make sure you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like and share this video. Share it over lunch. This is a good lunch story. Share it over lunch. It was 1897. Chicago was still basking in the afterglow of the World's Columbian Exposition, when it found itself gripped by a scandal that would change its history. The disappearance of Louisa Luetgert and the subsequent trial of her husband, Adolph the Sausage King. The sausage vat killings would captivate the nation with its gruesome allegations and shocking revelations. We are going to get deep into this story and learn what happened. Adolph Ludwig Luetgert was born on December 27th, 1845 in the German town of Gütersloh. He was the fourth of 16 children. His father, Christian Heinrich Luetgert, dealt animal hides and tallow wool. As a young man, Luetgert moved to America and arrived in Chicago around the time of the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. He became employed at the tanneries at Schmidt and Claus & Co. and the Chicago Hide and Leather Company, utilizing the skills he acquired as a tanner's apprentice in his youth. He diligently saved his earnings, paving his way for his true passion, sausage. I feel like a lot of our true passions are sausage. Like, I love sausage. That's not even a Freudian thing. I love it. So, like I said, in Chicago, we take our sausage very seriously. In 1872, Luetgert married Caroline Ropke, but she would soon pass away 5 years later. He soon found another love of his life with Louisa Bickneys, who he married in 1878. Together, they had 4 children and built a life in Chicago, residing next door to the sausage factory that would soon become their life in more ways than one. Luetgert established the A.L. Luetgert Sausage and Packing Company at the corner of Hermitage Avenue and Diversey Boulevard. His factory employed numerous workers from the surrounding neighborhoods and solidified his position as a prominent figure in the community. He became known as the Sausage King of Chicago, his factory churning out millions of pounds of sausage that fed the city's appetite for processed, encased meats. However, Luetgert was a little bit of a weird guy. As you know, we don't really want our sausages to be made by normal people, do we? We want our sausages to be made by people who are a little strange, right? And Luetgert was known as a man with a unique personality and strange habits. He had an imposing stature and a pack of half-wild dogs that followed him. See, he must have smelled like meat, so the dogs were attracted to him. This is why animals like me is I eat a lot of meat, and I assume I just sort of smell like smoked meats. That's why animals love me. His relationship with Louisa became strained, marked by arguments and allegations of infidelity on Luetgert's part. This turbulent domestic life, coupled with financial troubles, led to the closure of his factory just prior to Louisa's disappearance. I don't know. If you can't make a sausage factory work in Chicago, you can't successfully run a sausage factory in Chicago, I don't know what you can do. Those just sell themselves. On the night of May 1st, 1897, Louisa Luetgert vanished without a trace. Adolph initially told his children that she had gone to visit her sister, a story he maintained when questioned by Louisa's concerned brother, Deirdre Bickney's. However, as days turned into weeks with no sign of Louisa, suspicion fell upon Adolph. The police, led by Captain Hermann Schuttler, lots of Germans here, launched an investigation that uncovered a series of disturbing clues. Witnesses recounted seeing Luetgert working late at the factory on the night of Louisa's disappearance, and his purchase of large quantities of arsenic and potash, a corrosive alkali used in soap making, raised further alarms. I don't think you use arsenic in sausage making either. The Luetgert case is an early example of what would later be termed an eraser killing, where the perpetrator attempts to completely disintegrate the victim's body to conceal the crime. This aspect of the case led to significant public fascination. The search of the factory premises yielded grim discoveries: bone fragments, a charred corset stay, and 2 rings, one of which was a wedding band engraved with the initials LL. This evidence, coupled with witness testimonies and Luetgert's own suspicious behavior, painted a troubling picture. He was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife, despite his continued claims of innocence. Adding to the intrigue, Luetgert was observed trying to access the factory after the police had taken control, possibly to tamper with evidence, but he was denied entry. Nice try. The trial of Adolph Luetgert commenced in 1897 and presided over by Judge Richard Tuthill. The courtroom became a stage for a dramatic clash between the prosecution, led by State's Attorney Charles S. Deanan, and the defense, spearheaded by William Vincent. The prosecution presented the bone fragments and the ring as key evidence, while the defense argued that Louisa had left voluntarily, citing witnesses who claimed to have seen her after her disappearance. The first trial ended in a hung jury because the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. However, a second trial happened in January 1898, and this time the prosecution introduced new evidence: anthropologist George Amos Dorsey. Dorsey's expert testimony confirmed that the bone fragments found in the factory were indeed human, dealing a significant blow to the defense's case. And I get that. It's a sausage factory, so they could have been like, yeah, some bone gets in here. What? This is a meat processing plant. What do you want? But, the bone fragment, kind of a problem. But he could have been like, people lose their fingers in there all the time, right? Luetgert took the stand in his own defense, which is always a terrible idea. His attempts to explain his actions on the night of Louisa's disappearance, including his claim that he was merely making soap in the factory vat, failed to convince the jury. The public largely believed in Luetgert's guilt, and many wished to see him convicted and punished. The defense, in an attempt to counter the prosecution's claims, conducted their own experiments with a corpse, attempting to demonstrate that a body could not be dissolved in the manner alleged. However, this strategy was not convincing of the jury. Also, where did they get a corpse? Hey, I get that people donate their bodies to science and stuff like that, but people don't really donate their bodies to, legal proceedings. Not that I'm aware of. Seems pretty weird. Also, really weird. Did they bring that corpse into the courtroom? Also, imagine being a juror and all of a sudden we have to watch this corpse attempt to be dissolved. No wonder you lost the jury there, man. Ultimately, the jury in the second trial found Adolph Luetgert guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison. This was one of the first instances where a murder conviction was secured against a defendant without the presence of a body, building upon the precedent set by the earlier Webster-Parkman case. The Luetgert case played a big role in the development of forensic science, and particularly in the field of forensic anthropology. George Amos Dorsey's expert testimony confirming the human origin of the bone fragments marked a turning point in the use of scientific evidence in criminal trials. The case demonstrated the value of anthropological expertise in legal proceedings, paving the way for the widespread acceptance of forensic anthropology as a crucial tool in crime investigation. The late 19th century witnessed significant advancements in forensic science, with figures like Alphonse Bertillon developing anthropometry, a system of identifying criminals through physical measurements. However, the Luetgert case coincided with the rise of fingerprinting as a more reliable method of identification. Sir Francis Galton's extensive research on fingerprints and the development of classification systems by Juan Vucetich and E.R. Henry laid the foundation for the widespread adoption of fingerprinting in criminal investigations. The sausage vat murder trial was not merely a legal proceeding, it was a media spectacle that captivated the entire country. Newspapers across the country provided daily coverage of the trial, with reporters vying for scoops and sensationalizing the gruesome details. The public's appetite, no pun intended, for information about the case was insatiable, and the Luetgert trial arguably contributed to a shift in public perception of murder trials, making them a subject of widespread interest and media attention. The media frenzy surrounding the case reached a fever pitch, with reporters resorting to extraordinary measures to gather information. In one instance, reporters from the Chicago Daily Journal were said to have eavesdropped on jury deliberations by lowering a reporter down a heating shaft. He was like Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible being lowered down in there. This intense media scrutiny not only reflected the public's fascination with the case, but also highlighted the growing power of the press in shaping public opinion and influencing legal proceedings. The Luetgert case spawned a host of myths and legends that continue to circulate even today. The most notorious of these is the rumor that Luetgert ground his wife's remains into sausage and sold it to unsuspecting customers. This has never been substantiated. I really doubt Chicago's sausage consumption changed after this story. Might have increased. There are legends of Louisa Luetgert's ghost haunting the former factory site in the couple's old home. Reports of sightings of her ghost have surfaced over the years, including a police investigation in 1901 prompted by a report of a moving light in the factory and accounts from a family who lived in the building in the 1970s describing poltergeist activity. Luetgert himself claimed to have seen ghosts in his factory, accusing the police of hiring them to scare him. These ghost stories and the already gruesome details of the case have cemented the Luetgert legend into Chicago's folklore. Even after Luetgert's conviction and death, the controversy surrounding the case persisted. In a surprising turn of events, Chicago lawyer Frank Pratt claimed that Luetgert had confessed to him in 1898, admitting to the murder but maintaining that it was an accident. That's not a murder, but this confession, however, did little to quell the debate surrounding Luetgert's guilt. Luetgert's children and his own lawyer proclaimed Luetgert's innocence at his funeral. So there are still lingering doubts about the Luetgert case and whether Luetgert was ultimately responsible. Adolph Luetgert died in prison on July 7th, 1899 from heart disease. Imagine that. The Sausage King died from heart disease. It's poetic in a way. His sausage factory was ravaged by a fire in 1904. Today, the site where the factory once stood has been transformed into condos. Condominiums. Might be kind of cool condos. Might be kind of haunted. Supposedly haunted condos. The Luetgert case is a fascinating Chicago legend and a fascinating Chicago tale. And something that, really feels like it could have only happened in Chicago. I was personally surprised that this case isn't more well known in the Chicago area because it sort of has all of the little parts that, would make people fascinated. But we've had a lot of other fascinating characters involved in these types of crimes. So, maybe this one gets outshone a bit, and it's a bit old, being 120 something years old, 130 something years old. So make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure that you like and share this video with all of your friends. If you see someone at lunch eating sausage, be like, hey, you know about the sausage vat murder? They'll love it. Go ahead and follow me on Blue Sky and TikTok. My username is AKBrews. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter if you are still on Twitter. My username is AKBrews. If there is a spooky, disturbing story you would like me to cover, send me an email. I like getting those emails, and I will research and do a video on it. I appreciate you watching my video, and I appreciate your support. And please, stay spooky.